zoning administrator, and I would like to call the meeting to order at 3 p.m. Jennifer, would you mind announcing staff members present?
Sure. First, we have you, Principal Planner Fernanda Roberi. We have Senior Associate Planner Chris Schmidt. We have Associate Planner Christy Sabdo, who will be filling in for ZA on one item. We also have Associate Planner Matthew Buggert and myself, Recording Secretary Jennifer Cleary.
Thank you. Would you also mind telling people how to join via Zoom?
Members of the public are encouraged to join our meetings via Zoom Gov, a secure service that connects you live with no lag time. This meeting is also streamed live on youtube.com/City of Monterey with a 10-second delay and Comcast channel 25 with up to a 90-second delay. If you would like to provide public comment, please join the meeting using Zoom or by telephone, making sure to join in time to accommodate delays. To join the Zoom meeting from a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers provided on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. Since the meeting has begun, you'll find the agenda under the Recent tab. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864 toll free. Once again, that call-in number is 833-568-8864. Then you'll need the webinar ID, which is 160-666-5889. Once again, the webinar ID for this meeting is 160-666-5889. If prompted for a participant ID, press pound. Detailed instructions for using Zoom are available at monterey.org/public meetings, and there are more telephone numbers to call listed on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. To provide public comment via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. To provide comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand, then *6 to unmute when called upon. Public commenters will be announced using their last 3 phone number digits or the name typed into Zoom. Public commenters will be muted until it is their turn to speak. Please turn off TV or computer speakers or go to another room while connected, as background noise interferes with the broadcast. Public speakers will be called upon in order of hands raised. There is a 3-minute time limit for today's meeting. And I am showing no hands up currently. For now, this item is public comments for items not on the agenda.
Sorry, we're still on the consent agenda.
Oh, sorry about that.
We only have one item on the consent agenda, and it's approval of the June 16th, 2022 minutes. So would anyone from the public like to make a comment on the minutes? Do we see anyone on Zoom?
I see no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay. I will then make a motion to approve the minutes as presented. And I guess I approve the minutes since I'm the only one voting. All right. And now I would like to open it up for public comments for items not on the agenda. So this is your chance to make any comments for anything that is not on the agenda. Do we see anyone on Zoom?
No hands are raised on Zoom.
Okay, then I will close public comments for items not on the agenda. And I will open it up for the first item on the regular agenda, which is consider 74 Via Descanso, variance application VA 220092 to allow rear yard setback variance, 20 feet required, 17.5 feet proposed, and second story side yard setback variance, 15 feet required, 7.5 feet proposed, to enclose existing deck with solarium. Applicant property owner Yvonne and Jose Rafael Ramos, R120 zoning district, low density residential designation, exempt from CEQA. Do we have a staff report for this item?
Yes, we do. Thank you, zoning administrator Rivera. My name is Chris Schmidt. I'm a senior associate planner for the city. And I have worked with the owners and applicants on this project. So just moving on to the recommendation, staff's recommendation is to approve the setback variances. The subject property is at 74 Via Descanso. It is an R1 zoned site and contains an existing single family dwelling. It is bound by Via Descanso at the south, and then on either side of the property there are single family homes, and then at the rear there's a city greenbelt area. And then it's also located in the Monterey Vista neighborhood. So the applicant is requesting setback variances in order to build a glass solarium structure at the rear of their existing two-story home. It would require a reduction of the 20-foot rear yard setback to 17.5 feet, and then the 15-foot second story side yard setback to 7.5 feet. And their request is based on the fact that there's a large and mature oak tree in their front yard, which when the home was first built, when the homeowners built this home, they sited the home this far back in order to avoid impacts to that tree. And that tree limits their ability to build a similar type structure in their front yard that might comply with the required setbacks. And then they've also stated that the proposed location of this solarium would meet the zoning ordinance goals of orderly development. So here we have a site plan. So on the right-hand side would be the street and driveway. And so I've highlighted the location of that oak tree. It's kind of tucked into the corner of the home here. And then you can see on the far left side, that's the location of the proposed solarium at an existing second story deck. And then this is a Google Street View image. You can see that large tree right above the gate. It sprawls almost all, for most of the front yard area there, and would limit any sort of attached development. Here you see the proposed solarium. As I mentioned, it would be at an existing deck, and it's essentially kind of just a glass structure with some glass ceilings. And then on the far right image, I show the orange highlight, or excuse me, red highlighted area. That's the only area of the development that doesn't actually meet the side yard setback. The city has a kind of a sliding scale setback requirement where there's a maximum of 15 feet and a minimum of 7 feet. And in this case, on the opposite side of the home, they're basically at the minimum amount and that necessitates the maximum 15 feet. But that's the only portion of it that would be subject to that 15 feet. So moving on to the findings, there are a number of findings that the zoning administrator has to make for setback variances. The first is that because of special circumstances or conditions applicable to the subject property, including size, shape, topography, location, or surroundings, strict application of the requirements of the zoning ordinance deprive the property of privileges enjoyed by other properties in the vicinity and under identical zoning classifications. So in this case, this site has a number of circumstances. It is located directly adjacent to the city's greenbelt, and there are no direct neighbors at the rear, which negates some of the need for that full rear yard setback. And then, as I already mentioned, the tree is one of the primary reasons that this is one of the only areas that they could do this type of development. The second finding is that granting the application will not be detrimental or injurious to property or improvements in the vicinity of the development site or to the public health, safety, or general welfare. The variance would not be detrimental or injurious. Staff's found no health or safety or general welfare concerns. Neighbors have signed letters of support and provided those, and I've included them in the packet as an attachment to the resolution. And then in the case of the actual development, the structure would be rather small and mostly glass at an existing deck location. And because it's glass, staff has found that it's generally not going to be perceived to be an increase in massing. The third finding is that granting the application is consistent with the purposes of this ordinance and will not constitute a grant of special privilege, inconsistent with the limitations on other properties in the vicinity and in the same zoning district. Staff was able to make this finding. It is consistent with the purposes of the ordinance. It would not constitute a grant of special privilege based on the hardships, the physical conditions that I previously stated, including the location of the site adjacent to the greenbelt and location of the existing dwelling and tree. There are a couple of other findings that have to be made for residential setback variances. And in this case, it's the findings that have to be made are A and B and either C or D. Staff was able to make A, B, and C. So the first is that it's very similar to finding number 2 that I previously discussed. Staff did not find any detrimental or injurious impacts related to this development. There are no viewer privacy impacts, and as I mentioned, it's a small glass structure at an existing deck. And then this proposal would also require A or C review and a building permit approval. The next finding is essentially that the variance would not result in a setback of less than 3 feet for a side yard or less than 10 feet for a rear yard. In this case, it would not. And then the third finding is that there's some sort of physical hardship. In this case, there, as I mentioned, is a physical hardship associated with the existing structure and tree. And then the fourth finding here, staff was not able to make this finding. It has to do with single-story additions, so it does not apply. So again, staff recommends approval of the setback variance. I am available for questions, and the property owners and their development team are here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Now I don't have any questions for Chris, so now I would like to open it up for public comments on this item. Jennifer, could you just remind people quickly on how to participate?
To join the Zoom meeting from a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864 toll free. Once again, that phone number is 833-568-8864. Then enter the webinar ID 160-666-5889. Once again, this webinar ID is 160-666-5889. Once you are in the Zoom to provide public comment, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen, or to provide comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand, then *6 to unmute when called upon. I don't see any hands raised on Zoom. Is there anybody who is here in person that wants to comment on this item? I think that's a no.
Okay. So I will close public comment for this item. Sorry, I didn't know if the applicant was here. Are they?
Yep.
Oh, did they want to speak? Okay. All right, I will close public comments then, and so I agree with staff's recommendation to approve the variance because of the special circumstances of the topography of the site and the green belt and the large tree in the front yard. And I also agree that it wouldn't have any impact, any view or privacy impacts or be deleterious to any neighbor or the general welfare of the city. So I would like to approve the application as presented. And this This action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 days of today's date on forms available at the planning office or online. So congratulations, this item is approved. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Sorry, thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the next item on the agenda. So it's item number 4. Consider 1015 Cass Street use permit application UP 210081 to allow conversion of existing commercial office space to 6 residential units. Applicant Glenn E. Warner, property owner Don Desai, COES zoning district, commercial general plan designation, exempt from CEQA. Do we have a staff presentation?
Yes, again, my name is Chris Schmidt, Senior Associate Planner with the city. The staff recommendation for this project is to approve. I also have conditions of approval with my approval recommendation. So the site is located on Cass Street. It's generally one of our commercial office and medical office areas. And here you can see it. There are a number of structures on the site, 3 total, of varying sizes and numbers of stories. So the project description for this one is conversion of existing office space to 6 residential units. There are 3 buildings totaling 6,015 square feet. There are a total of 14 parking spaces, 7 of which would be covered by a new carport, and then there'd be a new waste enclosure. And also add that this project requires a use permit because there are residential units over 4. The zoning ordinance requires a use permit whenever there are more than 4 units. So here we see the site plan. The main thing I'm highlighting here is the new carport and waste enclosure to meet the minimum parking and waste requirements. And then moving on to the floor plan. So this is building 1. It's at kind of the entrance of the site. And the applicant would basically turn this into 2 one-bedroom units on the 1st and 2nd floor. Building 2, there would be 3 new units of each having either 2 or 3 beds. And then building 3, there would be 2 new units having 2 beds and one having 1 bed. Staff did receive 1 public comment for this project from a neighbor across the street who was generally very supportive of the project because of the need for housing in the city and the excess of commercial office space. So there are a number of findings for use permits. The first being that the proposed use is in accord with the objectives of this chapter and the purposes of the zone. Units over 4, as I mentioned, are permitted by use permit, and this proposal includes the required covered parking, including covered parking. A waste enclosure would be provided, and it meets the minimum development standards. The second is that the proposed use and the proposed conditions under which it would be operated or maintained will be consistent with the general plan, will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare of persons residing or working in or adjacent to the neighborhood of such use, and will not be detrimental to properties or improvements in the vicinity or to the general welfare of the city. So this proposal is consistent with the commercial general plan land use designation, which allows residential densities up to 30 units per acre. In this case, I think this site could accommodate, I believe I detailed it in the staff report, up to 12 residential units if there was enough water. There is enough water for the proposed use. I think that's the most currently under the current water credit requirements. And then the last finding is that the proposed use will comply with any specific condition required for that use. Our typical conditions apply. And then in this case, because they are proposing 6 residential units, it is subject to the city's affordable housing requirement, which in this case would be the deed restriction of 1 unit for affordable housing. So the staff has recommended a condition to require an affordable housing agreement. So that concludes my presentation. Again, staff's recommendation is to approve the project, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Chris. I do have some questions. I was wondering if you could go back to the slide that shows building 2 floor plan.
Yes.
How many units are in that building?
It's 3 units.
Is it a 2-story building?
Yes,
Okay, so on the first story, how many?
there are 2.
2 on the first story?
Yeah.
Okay. And how many bedrooms on those units?
Let's see, unit 4 on the bottom image has 2 bedrooms. Unit 3 has 3 bedrooms, and the top unit, it has 3 bedrooms as well, although it says that there are 2 labels for bed 1 and then bed
Oh.
2, so it is a total of 3 beds.
Okay. I count a total of 7 units proposed. So I count 2 in building 1, 3 in building 2, and 2 in building 3. So 2 plus 3 plus 2, I count 7.
Am I reading? I incorrectly said that there were 6. So
Okay,
there are 7.
okay. But so the parking calculation was made for 7.
Correct.
Okay. Can you point on the site plan maybe where are the 7 uncovered spaces?
Yeah. So right here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That was
Sorry. Are they to the left of the carport?
the uncovered spaces?
Yeah, the uncovered?
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Are the uncovered spaces existing?
Yeah, there's an existing parking lot there. Yes.
Oh, okay. Are the carport spaces also existing or?
No, the carport would be proposed. It's to be a new carport.
Okay. But it looks like the spaces are there but they're just putting a cover on top of them.
Essentially, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if you're able to answer this question, but is there a requirement for an accessible parking space?
It is my understanding there are some circumstances when a proposal has more than 4 residential units that yes, there should be an accessible space, but I would have to follow up with our building department staff.
Okay.
That wasn't a comment that I had received from them when I first brought the proposal to them.
Because I see on the existing site plan, there is, at least it looks like space number 5 is accessible. But that space is no longer there in the proposed site plan.
I see.
Okay, that sums up my questions for Chris. Would the applicant like to make a presentation? Could you state your name and also press the button on the microphone?
Hi, Glenn Warner, architect. And I just wanted to talk about that handicap space. It went away because the carport spaces were required to be a little wider to accommodate the post. So we had to kind of absorb that into those. But we could certainly make that in space into a handicap if we needed to.
Yeah,
There's some
you
room
could
at the
right
back
there.
there. Yeah. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Unless
Okay.
you have questions for me.
No.
Okay.
Thank you. Would any member of the public like to make a comment on this item? Do we have anyone on Zoom?
There's no hands raised on Zoom, so just real quick, to join the Zoom meeting from a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864 toll free, then enter the webinar ID 160-666-5889. If you are in Zoom joined by the computer, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. Is there any person in person who wants to comment? I think nobody wants to comment on this one.
Okay, I'll close public comments then. So I agree with staff's findings that the proposal is consistent with the zoning ordinance and the general plan. And it wouldn't have a detrimental impact to the public or the city. It is within the allowable density and it would meet all of the required parking. So I would just amend the resolution to reflect the proposed number of units as 7 instead of 6.
Yeah.
So I guess wherever it says 6, it needs to be changed to 7. And
Yeah, that was just an administrative mistake. They meet all of the other requirements.
yeah. And yeah, at the building permit stage, I guess the building department will decide whether a accessible parking space is required, but hopefully there's enough room to accommodate it. If not, I mean, if there would be, if there is no room, then we might have to, it might have to come back to the zoning administrator if we don't have enough room for all the required parking. But I guess we'll see.
Can I make one more comment? Or am I out? Because we do have room there at the end.
Yeah,
Behind the trash enclosure, we could put a 5-foot.
yeah.
Oh, okay,
And there's a path of travel right next to it.
Exactly.
okay. So then I'll just, I'll approve the application with only the change to make, to fix the 6 units to 7. So the application is approved. It is appealable to the planning commission within 10 days of today on forms available at the planning office or online. Congratulations. I'm going to recuse myself from the next item because I own property within 1,000 feet. So could be a conflict of interest. So I will step out.
Sure. Hi, my name is Christy Sabdo. I'm going to be zoning administrator for this, for item number 3. I'm an associate planner with the city of Monterey. So I'd like to open it up for item number 3. Consider 532 Encina Avenue, variance application VA 220066 to allow fencing to exceed a 4-foot height limit within the front yard setback. The applicant and property owner, Thomas Dawson. The zoning is R1 and the general plan designation is low density and the project is exempt from CEQA. Does staff have a presentation?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Matthew Buggart. I am an associate planner with the City of Monterey's Planning Division, and I will share my screen and get this PowerPoint going. The property is 532 Encina Avenue, and it is regarding a fence height variance for today's zoning administrator hearing on July 21st, 2022. Staff's recommendation. Let's see if I can. Get rid of this. Okay, what's wrong? Staff's recommendation is to adopt the resolution approving the fence height variance. The subject property is in the eastern side of the city. It is located behind a lumber and construction retail hardware store business along Encina Avenue. It's on the southern side of the street here. The parking lot for this hardware store has bi-directional entry and exits, so people can either exit onto Del Monte or onto Encina this way. Also, there's a entrance over here to the left for where lumber is dropped off, trucks go through there, and similar operations. The applicant's variant request is that the fence would provide additional privacy and security to the home across from the commercial business, and that it would raise the fence height up to about 6 feet, 56 inches as proposed. Other properties on the same street already have high fences across from the commercial business. There's a roughly 6-foot high fence two doors down, and there's also another property around the corner that has a high fence. And the commercial building itself has a very high fence between the road and the lumber yard. Granting the application will only affect the property in question. It's at the end of a street and would not affect sightline safety or nearby property views. The proposed fence location is this L notch here. It raises up to the 6-foot height past the front yard setback and would block from both noise from operations over here and some of the sight lines of cars going around here, and they have a kind of external patio area in the front as well. Here is the entrance to the lumberyard area. Trucks, operation, construction people are in the area. And turning to the left, the property is on the right. The wall that would be heightened is the gray wall that is being pointed to in this image. And the entrance to the hardware store is around the corner to the left. Here's a view from the parking lot. People come out, headlights and people in general turn right onto Encina, and that wall would be raised as part of this variance request. Findings for approval for a general variance because of special circumstances or conditions, strict application of the requirements of this ordinance would deprive the property of privileges enjoyed by other properties in the vicinity. The lot is located directly across from a commercial property parking lot and through streets. It is exposed to numerous truck deliveries, car traffic lights, and noise. The granting the application would not be detrimental to property or improvements in the vicinity of the development site. The variance would not be detrimental or injurious. Staff has found no health, safety, or general welfare concerns with noticing there were no public comments received by the planning office. Granting the application would be consistent with the purposes of this ordinance. It would not constitute a grant of special privilege. This variance would be consistent with the purposes of the ordinance. It would not constitute a grant of special privilege. The site experiences the light and noise impacts from that commercial business. And as mentioned earlier, there are nearby properties that also have higher fence heights as well. For the fence variance itself, at least one of the following determinations must be able to be made. There are two of them that can be made. There is not a significant grade difference. However, the property is across from a commercially zoned property. Additionally, the fence would not appear as a visual barrier other than between the street and the house itself. And lastly, for a fence variance, there is a physical hardship with one of the following. In this particular situation, the finding that could be made is the location of the existing structures on site is a physical hardship. The noise from traffic and the lights and noise from people entering and exiting from the commercial property. Conditions of approval. There are no special conditions of approval tied to this application. The standard conditions for construction would apply to the property or to the application.
Okay.
The recommendation from staff is to adopt the resolution approving the fence height variance. And with that, that concludes staff's presentation. We have the applicant here who is available to answer questions, may have a word or two, and I believe also a neighbor as well.
Sure. Thank you, Matthew. I just have one question for you. Under general variance finding 3, it was mentioned that nearby properties similarly have higher fences due to this condition. Do you know if those houses have a variance for their fence, or maybe you didn't research that? That's fine.
I did not research into it. However, after verbally talking with them, I did not research into it.
Sure.
However, supposedly, yes.
Okay.
And I know the one around the corner does for sure.
Okay, so you know that one does, but we're not sure about the other one. So
Yeah, this one here.
okay.
And also, this property over here, the one that faces to the left, this is all 6 feet because it's considered side yard for them.
Okay, and what's the one you're not sure has a variance?
This one here, but it is a higher fence. And
Okay.
supposedly, yes. However, I did not do personal
Sure.
research into it.
Thank you. That's my only question for staff. Does the applicant want to speak? You don't have to. Oh, that's perfectly fine. Okay, sure. Thank you. Okay. Should we open up for public comments, Jennifer, please?
Yes, sorry, that's me. To join the Zoom meeting from a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864 toll free, then enter the webinar ID, which is 160-666-5889. Once again, this meeting's webinar ID is 160-666-5889. There is nobody joined on Zoom, but would you like to comment? Now's your chance. Can you please state your name for the record?
Yeah, I'm Susan Allen, and I live at 516 Encina, the house with the other variance permit. It is permitted.
What was that?
Mine is the house that was in question on the street, and it does have a permit. It has a variance permit and also an encroachment permit.
Okay,
And I support Mr. Dawson's request. I have no objection to him raising his fence. I think it's a great idea. Just for the safety of his kids and family and his privacy and keep the noise and all that down.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
thank you.
Jennifer, are there any other?
I see no other participants on Zoom right now, and I think that's it for
Okay,
in person as well.
okay. I'd like to close public comments. I wanted to say that in general, I do support staff's findings. So the project or the proposed variance meets the 3 general variance findings. And the one change or amendment that I do want to make to general variance finding 3 is to cross out and nearby properties similarly have higher fences due to this condition. We don't know we're not certain if all of them have variances, so I would like to just remove that. The proposed variance does meet the fence height variance findings. It meets one or more of the findings under Monterey City Code 38153C8. And it also meets one of the physical hardships that must be met under Monterey City Code 153C7C. So I do approve the variance and want to let the applicant know that this variance application could be appealed within 10 days. So the decision is not final until then. And that's it. I know that Fernanda's going to come back for the end of the meeting, but
I'm gonna go see if she's
sure.
there.
We're waiting for the zoning administrator, Fernando Rivera, to return to close out the meeting.
All right. I don't have any informal staff reports, so I guess I will adjourn the meeting at 3:43 p.m.